welcome to the stream. Am I coming through? Yeah, the audio is coming through. All right. Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Ben from Evolve Sport Nutrition. Today is it's a tough day, to be honest with you, because it just keeps happening over and over again. I don't want to get into it too much, but the news of Sonia Massey has really upset me, thrown me off today, and all that kind of stuff. So rest in power to Sonia Massey. I really am glad that the cop is getting charged with first degree murder. I think 3 counts of it. That's really good. But it should never have happened in the first place. She's the one that called 911. So, when will people actually learn about this shit? It's tough. Last week I was talking about doing some self-care, and today, based on the algorithm gods, the algorithm has told me that that today is International Self-Care Day. Self-care is probably really important now for a lot of different people and all that kind of stuff. And I will say, largely, the concept of self-care has been predominantly female-driven for the last little bit, however long the term self-care has been around for. And it's kind of tricky because self-care is for everyone. It's not a gendered thing, and it's very important because, of course, one of the biggest things I tell people, I ask men in my assessments nowadays and all that kind of stuff, when they're looking to just generally tell me that they want to look, they want to be healthier, whatever that means, and all that kind of stuff. I ask them during the assessment, what's your self-care routine? What do you do? What's your stress management? What's this? And so many men are just dumbfounded by that question. They have no self-care routine, really. And if there is a self-care routine, it ends up being kind of toxic. So, and I understand why. Ever since I heard the term self-care over 15 years ago, it's largely been associated with like infographics on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, to be like, hey, here's what self-care looks like. You take a bubble bath, like have a glass of wine, go shopping, do this. And I'm just like, man, this is such a bullshit concept, until you actually learn what self-care is about, and then you realize, oh, that's just like consumerist, commercialist, capitalist propaganda bullshit, getting you to spend more money in order to take care of yourself, right? That's not what self-care is. It really isn't. And if you think that's what it is, that's what it might be for you. But the core concept of self-care in itself is how to take care of yourself. What kind of things you need to do to take care of yourself. And I find a lot of people, especially men, are so alienated from this discussion because for the longest time, the idea of taking care of yourself for men has not been traditionally there, in regards to the health standpoint and all that kind of stuff. So, like booking your own doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, all that, which I'm guilty of right now too, because I haven't seen the dentist for a long time. I'm sorry, COVID freaked me out for so much that it was like the idea of going to a doctor's office and like having my mouth open and breathing all over the place was so weird to me. So I got to get on that soon. But the idea here is the idea of concept of self-care is basically how you take care of yourself, right? Because a lot of people don't take care of themselves really good. A lot of people I find are people pleasers. And in the people pleasing, they sabotage their own health status. They sabotage their own health because what they do or what they don't do is take care of themselves, and they try to take care of everyone else around them, right? Traditionally, the first image that would come to mind is a mom that's, like sacrificing everything, bending over backwards, breaking her back and all that kind of stuff to take care of her kids and her husband and all that. And one of the biggest things when I have these people come into my office and all that kind of stuff, I have to use the airplane analogy, where if your oxygen bags deploy from an airplane flight, then you have to secure your own mask oxygen mask before you help anyone else. And the reason why is that's the biggest thing, and this is what I've learned in my younger version of myself is if you fail to take care of yourself, you eventually make that everyone else's problem. Like everyone else has to deal with that, and and at this stage of my life, it's just I'm not okay with that. So I have poured so much time and effort into my own self care over the last little bit in multiple facets, right? When it comes to mental health, when it comes to by getting a therapist, reading a lot of mental health books, psychology books, and all that kind of stuff, self improvement books, just learning in general. And of course, having a physical activity routine that isn't too extreme. One of the reasons why I retired from endurance running and endurance sports in general was because I was doing everything at the extreme as a form of self-harm, to be perfectly honest with you. And you know that's why a lot of people are like, wait, what? You were so healthy though. But I'm like, yeah, but the reasons why I was running wasn't good, and I was overtraining and all that kind of stuff. Like I remember when I did the Muskoka 70.3 half Ironman. The second time I did it, not the first time. The first time was a completion. But the second time I did it was a full breakdown moment because my bike chain had broke, like the derailleur just broke off, and I just had this huge breakdown on the side of the road. And it was because at that point I realized, okay, this isn't about the love of the sport anymore. This is about me pushing myself to the extreme. And during that time, there was a lot of different reasons I figured that out. And I haven't enrolled in a triathlon really since at that degree, right? So a lot of the reason why I stepped away from endurance sports and I stepped away from like triathlons and all that kind of stuff and stepped away from working out so much was because I couldn't find a good balance. It was something that was objectively healthy done in an unhealthy way, which that's what a lot of people, the term is now orthorexia if it's diagnosed, right? Where caring about your health becomes unhealthy. I'm not saying that's what I had, because of course I didn't get diagnosed for that, and I think it's important to actually get diagnosed from someone that knows what they're talking about. But it definitely was a self-destructive kind of thing, because what would happen is I would train for such a long period of time and then eat appropriately. That part was good. But then the challenge was I would be in pain all the time. I wouldn't have any balance for social life activities. I wouldn't have any time for my family. I wouldn't have any time for myself. It was just train, work, and it sucked. Right? So the past few years, my therapist and I, and a couple of books and the stuff that I've been writing in my own journals and stuff like that, have been reflective of, okay, what is a good balance, right? Last week, we were talking about nutrition and philosophy, where I was talking about something called the 80-20 rule and what balance looks like. I have a good understanding of what that is because my job is revolving around that. It revolves around the idea of, okay, how does one maintain their healthy eating? What is healthy eating? How do we explore that through multiple different perspectives and encompass it and apply it to every client and every athlete that I have, right? What makes sense to give advice to and direct and guide and coach and all those kind of things. So that part was well developed from a food standpoint. But the idea of, okay, I'm not having a balanced life in regards to my physical activity. I'm not having a balanced life in regards to my hobbies or anything like that. That became such a problem when I didn't have my outlets anymore. And I think that was the case for a lot of people during the pandemic, during lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, is that when they weren't able to have the things that normally blow off their stress, they resulted in things that were worse. For a lot of people, drug and alcohol addiction was way, way worse. I had firsthand vision of that with someone that was living with me at the time. There's a lot of issues that people just couldn't take care of themselves, and when you can't take care of yourself, like I said before, you kind of make that everyone else's you make that everyone else's issue, and that's not good. No bueno in that regard, right? So what we're talking about here today, while I just start prepping up some food, start cooking up some Jajamyeon, because to be honest with you, I'm like, because of the news of Sonia Massey, that and then other things that are going on geopolitically right now, it's just been hard. So I'm making some. I'm not trying to do anything different with the food. I'm doing like weeknight meals and all that kind of stuff. And like I said before, Jajamyeon is one of my favorite kind of meals. So we're gonna be cooking that, and it's gonna be really really good because I know it's one of my favorite meals, and it's how I'm gonna take care of myself. Now, one of the biggest things is self care looks different depending on who you are, what makes sense to you, and all that kind of stuff. So today, I'm just talking about my self care strategies, what I like to do for myself, skincare routines a little bit, and you know all that kind of stuff. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, subscribing. Hint, hint. Do that below. But we're gonna get started cooking up some stuff. So you know, one of the biggest things is nutrition is a part of a very very important part of self care. So you know, knowing how to cook, being able to cook, doing all those kind of things is self care. That's what we're doing today. Because believe it or not, I was actually not doing that during the pandemic very very well. I wasn't eating very well. Wasn't taking care of myself, and that's because I'm like, hey, when the world is about to end, or you think the world's about to end, you kind of have different priorities. You just shift towards hedonism and all that kind of stuff. And now that the world's not ending, well, actually, the world is objectively still ending, but it's not an immediate pandemic kind of situation, right? So, ever since then, and I've been very open about this, like, the pandemic was really, really hard for me because I didn't have any of my social support groups, and the people that pretended to be my social support groups were actually not. So, you know, that's a challenge. And it's not a good one to have. Now, I will say that, as always, today's recipe is not a traditional recipe, so I don't want like Koreans to come at me in the comments or anything like that, because it's not original. It's I'm just doing whatever the hell I want to at this point, and we're strapping in. And we're having a good time. So what I'm going to use today is red onion. Is there a carrot in there? There's no carrot in there, no. Red onion, portobello mushrooms because I need to use those before they go bad, garlic, and some green beans because my mom has a green bean bush in her backyard, and she harvested a lot of green beans, so we're going to cook that up today too. We're going to throw some vegetables in there, get some ground pork in the jajamyeon, and we're just going to have a good time. We're just going to have a good time while I talk about self-care. Now, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I think there's a lot of self-care notions or ideas out there that really, really alienate and make the concept difficult to understand for men. You know, and or like what they do as self-care, they don't want to call it self-care, they don't want to use the right terminology because it's so closely associated with what you see a lot of like Instagram ads that are very, very pro-consumer and all that kind of stuff, right? The idea of like, oh, take a bubble bath, do this, buy this, go to a spa, do this. I'm like, okay, let's point out the privilege and elitism in that, in the sense where not everyone has the finances to be able to do something like that. B, let's point out the fact that, hey, self-care by itself is not treating yourself, because that's what those posts are really doing. They're like, hey, here's how you treat yourself. Here's how to do this. Creates unhealthy behaviors and all that kind of stuff. So, for example, if you're eating as a form of self-care, then are you eating for nutrition or are you eating for fun, right? One of the biggest concerns is a lot of people will self-sabotage their actual health because they are eating to reward themselves, and punishment reward based systems in food usually don't end up working out too well for people. They usually lead to disordered eating or just dysregulated eating, as I like to call it, and a lot of that becomes very, very reactive, and a lot of that becomes very basically binging based kind of eating, right? So one of the things from a self-care standpoint and nutrition is nutrition and self-care, yes, are fundamentally tied together. But self-care and nutrition does not look like, oh, I'm going to have a donut because of XYZ, because I had a tough day, or because this happened, or this happened, or this happened. I'm not saying you can't, but that's not what it should be. Nutrition in relation to self-care. Why am I having such a hard time peeling this layer off the onion today? Nutrition when it relates to self-care is more about, are you eating properly? Are you eating healthy? Are you supporting your own health with your food, or are you making things worse, right? Some examples of that might be like, okay, have you eaten breakfast? Have you eaten lunch? Have you eaten dinner? Some people will find excuses to not do those things, or like try to rationalize themselves out of it to be like, hey, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm doing this, I don't do these kind of things. But I'm like, let's be honest, like a lot of people are just skipping meals, and they're just putting a term on it that, tries to avoid any kind of self-reflective thought and critical thought in regards to their own health status, right? They're not taking care of themselves. So the idea of self-care when it comes to nutrition is, are you eating properly? Do you have a good nutrition plan? Are you getting enough dietary protein? That's one thing I preach about all the time. Are you getting enough vegetables, fiber, nutrients, all that kind of stuff? And within the confines of what your budget allows, because obviously one of the biggest things is groceries are hella expensive nowadays. So eating properly does not mean you have to have all these avocados or whatever influencer says is healthy or anything like that. Eating healthy is a personalized description or personalized definition that everyone needs to pay attention to. But one of the biggest things is, are you eating to support your own health goals? Are you eating to do the things you need? Are you eating for enough energy? Those things are all individually based, and it's nobody's business but you and your either dietitian, your nutritionist, or whatever, but the person that's advising you on health. Those are the people that should be concerned with, are you eating healthy in that regard, right? So let's get that out of the way right now. And right now is that nutrition and self-care is not like, hey, let's have some freaking cupcakes. And I don't know, I don't think I've ranted about cupcakes here, but I freaking hate cupcakes for multiple different reasons. I'm just not going to come at them right now, but it's not rewarding yourself for whatever, and then, that's not what self-care is from a nutrition standpoint. The self-care from the nutrition standpoint is, are you eating properly? Do you need help maintaining your nutrition goals? Do you need to do all those kind of things? And just, do you need to get some advice on how to eat properly, right? So nutrition and self-care is actually about nutrition. It's not about treating yourself or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of food and desserts and treats and all that kind of stuff, but not at the expense of my nutrition plan, right? So one of the biggest things, and I was thinking about this the other day because one of my clients is a picky eater child, an athlete, like a professional gymnast at the age of 8, like wonderful. But the challenge with this kid is because they were like, the parents were telling me, oh, they're such a picky eater. They only want to eat treats. They only want to do this. They only want to do this, the stuff that makes them feel good and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I had to actually work with them to be like, listen, people, when they're not taking care of themselves, and of course an 8-year-old can't possibly take care of themselves to that degree, they do not eat properly. They will look like they're just eating quote-unquote junk foods, because what their body is really doing is just reacting to what their wants are because they're not meeting their needs. So one of the biggest things is, are your nutritional needs being met? That's a very, very important thing that a lot of people need to be a little bit more aware of going forward with their health, right? Especially as costs go up, cost of healthcare, cost of food, cost of nutrition, cost of living, all that kind of stuff is going to go up, and it's going to stay up. So, it's a big, big challenge right now. If you have good health, then you spend less overall. So keep that in mind. But yeah. Now, so that's the nutrition for self-care part of the discussion. It's got 5 people here today. I'm very excited about that. Hello and welcome to the madness, everyone. We're talking about self-care today. So if you have any self-care tips or anything like that that you like, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'd love to hear about them and get some dialogue going with everyone today. Yeah. We're just cutting up some beans and some food for some non-traditional Jajamyeon. So, enjoy the show. That being said, what else is self-care? Right. Some other things that are very, very important for self-care are, of course, sleep. Whether or not you're sleeping properly, getting your sleep schedule aligned and all that kind of stuff. I was talking to a woman yesterday, doing her initial assessment and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I want to eat better to sleep better. I've had insomnia, I have ADHD, I have all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that hits home for me. I have all those that kind of things as well. And, you know, it leads to a very, very unstable time if you're dysregulated. And I told her the goal was not to go heavy, not to go crazy with her nutrition and physical activity, because she wanted a little bit of weight loss in there too. The goal is to introduce stability into her lifestyle. So how to eat to kind of stabilize her hormones, how to prioritize sleep, because of course she has, not of course, like she had 3 children, 11, 6, and 11 months old. Actually, 9. Sorry, I was getting that wrong. 9 years old, 7 months. Getting all tongue-tied today. One child is 9 years old, 6 years old, and 11 months old. And obviously she was stressed out of her mind. She hadn't had a good night's sleep in probably 10, 11 years or anything like that. And she was like, I want to do this. I want to do this workout. I want to do this workout. And I want to do this workout. And I'm like, how? How are we going to do that? You barely have enough time for yourself. And any time you do have for yourself, are you saying that physical activity is going to be the #1 priority for you? Or are you going to want to rest, right? What we needed to do is give her a hard reset, get her sleeping properly again, because one of the biggest challenges is if you're not sleeping properly, then you are not capable of meeting those goals, the mental health goals, the physical activity goals, or anything like that. Not in a healthy way anyways. Like that's a big problem that a lot of people need to understand, is that if we're going to do all those things at one time, which can be done, we need to prioritize certain steps. And one of the first steps that we need to prioritize in that kind of situation for her scenario is we need to get her sleep back on track. So that involved the nutrition, getting her to meet her nutritional needs a little bit better and finding out fast strategies on how to do that. And then, of course, after that, making sure that she understands why, from a hormonal standpoint, we're targeting sleep. Once we've done all those kind of things, then we can focus on the fat loss and all those other things. But if your body's not hormonally stable, then what's happening is that you are not capable of resting properly, of sleeping properly, of all that kind of stuff, and your hormones are all out of whack. And that means that basically your ADHD and your depression and all those kind of things are out of whack. It's harder. So when you eat properly and sleep properly, then you start exercising. That is the overall goal when it comes to stress management and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. That is the overall goal, is to get those things in check first before we start adding anything. So it's important to get a good hook on the foundation before we really start adding kind of different care plan goals in there and all that kind of stuff. So, good there. Right. All that. Put this away. So yeah, sleep is very, very, very important in the realm of self-care. So, one of the biggest challenges is sleep becomes more of a challenge as you age. I certainly know that, and I've been doing a lot more to try to get my sleep on track now and get in bed by 11 o'clock for myself, because I have to be realistic, right? I mean, I want to do stuff, I want to have some fun, I want to game, I want to, do all those kind of things, because that's a part of my self-care too, is my hobbies, hanging out with friends, socializing, playing games, watching my shows and all that kind of stuff. That's an important part of my own self-care routine, but it can't come at the cost or imbalance of another thing. So for example, if I'm staying up way too late to be able to play video games, then I'm not doing any good service for my self-care. Every now and then that's okay, but for the most part, no bueno. No bueno. So, sleep, highly important. What kind of things should we consider for sleep? Well, I think darker rooms are really, really, really good, especially if you are a light sleeper. Consider a sleep mask or blackout curtains or blackout blinds or whatever it is that might work well for you, but consider those things, because I think those things really, really do make a difference. Ever since I painted my room black, I've been sleeping a whole lot better in that kind of atmosphere. Let's see. Getting to sleep earlier and cutting out screen time a little bit faster before bed. A lot of people, this is a challenge for a lot of people, especially those that like to doom scroll before bed, because what ends up happening is when you're doom scrolling, you're getting a lot of UV light, or blue light, I should say, not UV light, blue light pumped into your brain while you're trying to sleep. And that is not easy to sleep in. You don't get good rest. Your central nervous system is going wild. Not good, right? So, that being said, always try to get a little bit better sleep by cutting out the screens a little bit earlier. A lot of people have a trouble with that, so be realistic with it, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be able to just cut off your phone habits, all that kind of stuff, but make a conscious choice and understand why you're doing that. So start, and I say this to a lot of my athletes, I'm like, listen, we need to focus on your sleep more than anything else, because that's the thing, more than anything else that's going to help you with your recovery. Is number one recovery tool is sleep, right? So making sure people sleep is very, very important, and getting good quality of sleep. I don't know how many hours people need. I don't know what the research says. I think everyone's individual on that. I personally need, if I'm getting good sleep though, I don't need as many hours. But I think that's changing as I get older. Physical activity. So physical activity, like I was talking about before, can be good. In most cases it's good. In my case, if you overdo it, it's bad. It's just a form of self-harm. It socially isolates you. It makes everything a little bit more difficult. So, that being said, physical activity, what should you be aiming for? Well, everyone's physical activity goals will depend on their individual levels of fitness. So, with that being said, it really, really does depend. But generally speaking, nowadays, I have to balance being an entrepreneur, taking care of myself and all that kind of stuff, taking care of Bruce, my dog, out with everything. So, I'm limited on how much time I can spend at the gym now. And if I did have more time, do I really, really want to spend all that time at the gym? That sounds kind of like, as much as I love the gym, not a good balance unless you're getting a lot of socialization there. Oops. So, keep that in mind. Your physical activity is very, very important. I will say, for the most part, a lot of people underdo resistance training. So that would be one place to start, is get your resistance training in. And of course, cardio is pretty important too. So, get your cardio in. And this is not to be like, hey, here's a guide, here's how much to aim for these age groups or anything like that. I'm just talking about what's important and what's not when it comes to the idea or concept of self-care, right? So go to the gym, or go take a run, or do some push-ups, pull-ups, or all that kind of stuff. Physical activity is very, very important and one of the cornerstones of healthy aging. Forgot to talk about this when I was talking about sleep, but one of the more important things about sleep and getting good sleep is having a good nighttime routine, like having a good list of things that you're going to do before you sleep. Such as brushing your teeth, washing your face, combing hair, whatever it is you need to do. in order to get a good night's sleep, you should consider doing that. So have a sleep routine, because the amount of clients I see without a sleep routine is actually quite shocking to me. It's quite high, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Because remember, it's like the oxygen mask thing, right? Secure your own oxygen mask before you try to help anyone else's. Very important stuff. So, by the way, if anyone's wondering, this is just pasta that I rolled out, that I kneaded over the weekend. And I'm rolling it out now, because that way I can keep the pasta in my fridge for longer. And it ages the dough a little bit, gives it a little bit of flavor, and it really changes the gluten structure of it. So if you're a big fan of making your own pasta or fresh pasta, I highly recommend you consider, or take a try at least, rolling out a whole bunch of pasta dough, kneading it, and then leaving it in balls in your fridge so that you can just roll it out afterwards. Really, really good stuff. I'm only going to do one more level of thinness, because it's Jajamyeon. It's going to be very delicious. It doesn't need to be thin at all. All right. There we go. So I'm rolling this out to a 4 on my pasta roller, if anyone's curious. And like I said, this is not an official recipe. This is just me making dinner for myself, and that's about it. So nobody come at me in the comments for anything that I'm doing right now, because you don't have to eat this, I do. Meh. Finally, one more, and then we can cut the noodles. All right, there we go. Let's take the noodle cutter. So yeah, there's the nutrition bit, the sleep bit. Oops, close that. What else do we need for self-care? All right, so mental health. One of the biggest things I've been working on over the past 3 years has been my mental health. I'm not going to get into all the issues that I struggle with, but I was diagnosed with ADHD about 2 years ago, which makes a whole lot of sense. I think everyone in the world knew that I had ADHD except for me. And when I look back at it, I'm like, of course, how did I not have ADHD diagnosed sooner, right? A lot of that has to do with like mental health and in the Asian population and all that kind of stuff, and how stigmatized it actually still is, and you know, all those kind of things. And it wasn't easy for me to get help. And when I was trying to get help, I didn't have a supportive network around me. Like I said, I was in a very toxic relationship 2 years ago. And, you know, that in itself was a burden on my mental health while I was going through depression related to the pandemic and Asian racism and all that kind of stuff, which still exists to this day. But I was with someone that was extremely unempathetic towards any of those kind of things, and was just, you know, me, like for her. So that being said, it was very difficult to get this support that I needed, and finally found a therapist that I really liked, because believe it or not, a lot of therapists themselves were dismissive of the things that I was talking about, right? So, you know, not all therapists are good. And believe me, one of my exes is a therapist, and she's probably the most narcissistic person ever that I know. So, not all therapists are good. Just like not all dietitians are good. Just like not all nutritionists are good too. Not all doctors are good and all that kind of stuff. You got to find someone that cares and that you vibe with. So that's my advice for any finding any healthcare practitioner or anything like that. You got to find someone that you vibe with and that works well with you. In terms of mental health stuff, The only thing I really know how to do is talk to a therapist or get people to talk to therapists and try to find a therapist that works well for them. And, that could be really, really difficult depending on what your background is, what your beliefs about mental health are, and all that kind of stuff, and how you were raised. There was a lot of cultural miseducation when it comes to mental health struggles, especially in the Asian population, especially for Asian men. So, I didn't have a supportive environment that would allow me to even consider that therapy. But lo and behold, me being the stubborn person I am, I was like, all right, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm going to do this for myself because I can't keep living like this. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, and would 10 out of 10 do it again, over and over and over again. Actually, I still see my therapist to this day. What am I talking about? I love my therapist. I think they are great. So, for the mental health side of things, for self-care, go see a professional. Don't, I swear, like, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people do. Like, oh, I talk to my friends about it, I do this, I do this, I do this. Your friends are not your therapists, all right? They're not trained on how to deal with situations properly, and if you're talking to them about, like, heavy stuff, they're not trained on how to do it. So it's only going to be a burden on your friendship. I'm not saying don't talk to your friends about your struggles and all that kind of stuff, but it's better to talk to someone that is qualified and knows how to deal with it, instead of someone that you've just known since high school, right? A lot of us do that. I did that, was the idea of like, oh, let's talk to my high school friends about this. And they didn't know anything about mental health stuff. So, that was a huge mistake. But at the end of the day, we make mistakes, we live, and we grow. Voila! Pasta or Jajamyeon noodles. Again, don't get mad at me. I've already said this is a non-traditional recipe. Okay. So, we got the noodles cut, rolled out. They are fresh noodles. I'm very excited about this. So we're going to go cook up the jajangmyeon. I've got some ground pork in the fridge. We're going to use a good amount of that, and we're going to bring everything over to the cooking side of the kitchen, and yeah, that's what we're going to do in a little bit. How's everyone doing though? There's a lot of crappy things going on in the world right now. Hope everyone's okay. This up here. All right. Yes, sweet. Okay, that's good. There for now. Okay. So now, just going to fill this up with water to get everything going, but we're going to use the Dutch oven today. Actually, what? I'm just going to use my regular pan. Yeah, we're just going to use my regular pan. So I'm going to start preheating this stuff up. I'm going to bring you all over here. So, oh my god, the cables. I'm going to bring you all over here. I'm going to start cooking pretty soon. We're going to talk a little bit more about self-care. So, mental health. Yeah, I really, really recommend people go see a therapist. One that they like, one that works with them, meets them where they're at, and all that kind of stuff. So know how to advocate for yourself, know how to ask questions on what kind of things that they offer, what experiences they have with the issues that you're talking about. Because, like I said, not all therapists are good. Black bean paste. Alrighty then. This is why this is one of my favorite recipes, is because like there's not a lot of marinating that you need to do beforehand. You're just gonna like cut this up and then put it in Bob's Your Uncle. And we really don't have to like do that much with the cooking and all that kind of stuff. You just like throw everything in, mix it all around, all good. It's a very, very friendly recipe, and it's one of my favorites for that reason. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. Is not only prep up this meal, but we're gonna also cook up some other meals too by boiling a few more noodles and then just kind of plating those up in a takeout box or something like that. Yeah, we got another one. We had to clean one of these. Boom. So, God, what else goes into self-care nowadays? Non-bullshit stuff. Basically, I think what men need to do a little bit better of is taking care of what their self-care looks like. Because I've seen too many men not taking care of themselves and then drag everyone else down around them. That's not okay. That's not mature. That's just man-child crap. So, take care of yourselves, men, so you can better take care of other people. That's what this is all about, right? Sometimes there are sacrifices that are being made, yes, but if you're constantly sacrificing, that's your default, and that's not good. You need to develop that self-love. You really, really do. What else is good self-care? There we go. Alright. Whew. Man, it's, I'm not having the easiest day today. There's a lot of brain fog happening in my brain for some reason. I don't know why this happens like so sporadically, but it does every now and then. And I'm just having a lot of brain fog today. I don't know why that is. It was a rainy day in Toronto today, and rainy days often make me feel a little bit hazy. So I don't know if that's it, or if there's like a shift in the barometric pressure, or Mercury is in retrograde, or whatever. But Mercury in retrograde. But you know, it's just I'm feeling a little bit hazy today. So after this, I am going to be doing some self-care ritualistic stuff. After I finish with dinner, there's going to be some self-care. There's going to be some TV being watched. You know, see what's available for me to watch tonight, what I can stream and all that kind of stuff. Currently watching Gen V and season 2 of the Titans, because we're going to review that on the podcast sometime soon. Not Gen V, but like season 2 of the podcast. I'm not going to talk about The Boys series finale. Last week on stream I said, oh, tonight's the premiere of The Boys. I was wrong. I was clearly, obviously wrong. That was Thursday night, not Wednesday night. So when I got off stream and I was like loading up Prime and all that kind of stuff to watch The Boys, I was pretty disappointed in myself for not knowing better. But if anyone wants to know what my thoughts on season 4 of The Boys are, please listen to the Spoiled Rotten podcast that my very, very good friend Daniel and I have been running for like a whole long time now. It's been like over 5 years, I want to say, that we've been running that podcast, reviewing superhero and geek movies and all that kind of stuff, and just, yeah, it's been a blast with him. He's one of my best friends, and just one of the best people I have ever met in my entire life. Like, he is just salt of the earth, such a good human being. I love him. So, you know, if you're curious about what I think about that, season 4 of The Boys. Go watch that. It's go listen to that podcast. It's a good one. I know the Olympics opening ceremony is tomorrow. No, Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. So that's going to be kind of cool to watch. Don't know what they have planned in Paris, but one of the biggest things I heard, like the swimming kind of situation is a little bit of a fiasco because they want to do the River Seine for the backdrop for the swimming events, but the River Seine ain't good. It's got a lot of E. coli. It's got a lot of crap. A lot of the Paris infrastructure has a lot of their sewage waste dumped into there when it comes to overflow. So they're testing the E. coli levels there constantly, daily. But it might come down to the wire of like, oh yeah, we can't. The athletes can't swim there right now because of this, and there's no backup plan, which is like wild to me. I'm like, what? What's going on there, Paris? That's not cool. Have a backup plan. All right. Alright, so that's good. Pan's heated up enough. Could be a little bit hotter, but whatever. Just gonna dump in half this. So this is one of those self-care things that I like to do too, is cook a whole lot of food ahead of time so I can portion it out throughout the week and not have to cook as much. As much as I love cooking, having to do it every single day is kind of hard when you're living by yourself. So, pro tip to people that live alone, cook in big batches. Don't meal prep. Meal prep is weird. It's like cooking large batches. Into the freezer. And then we're going to start cooking off this beef. And we're going to throw the vegetables in here too. Just the mushrooms and the onions. We're going to put in the green beans in a little bit. Not now. I like to throw those in a little bit later because they're going to cook faster than everything else. Throw the garlic in there. Alright, so your sleep, your stress management, all that kind of stuff is very, very good. Talking about self-care and all that. Basically, I want you all to not think about what self-care looks like from one of those stupid infographics that shows like a woman taking a bath with a glass of wine. Don't get me wrong, that could be self-care, but that's not self-care to everyone. Right? That's just some consumer's bullshit that's trying to sell you a bath bomb or something like that. So, don't buy into that. Take care of yourself. Exercise. Obviously, take a bath and all that, right? One of the best ways to have self-care, too, is to develop a morning routine. A lot of people, surprisingly, do not have a morning routine. What do I mean by a morning routine? Well, of course, when you wake up, it's like, okay, the idea of brushing your face, brushing your teeth, washing your face, taking a shower, all that kind of stuff, getting dressed for the day, all that is very, very important. Believe it, I did not do that for a full year because I was so depressed, right? It was like not happening, and it was kind of gross, I'm not going to lie, but that's just the reality of mental health struggles, right? It was a hard time for me. So what would happen is like there'd be days where I just didn't even shower and didn't take care of myself properly because my mental health was that bad. Um, and I'm saying all this now because I'm through it, but it could happen again. And one of the biggest things too is like, when you talk about your mental health, other people come out of that too. So like during that period of time when I was having a lot of mental health struggles, I posted about it. And because I'm always very honest with my social media stuff, right? I was posting about the abuse I was getting, the racism I was receiving, all that kind of stuff, and then the therapy that I was gonna go that I was getting, and a lot of my friends, particularly Asian friends, they had asked me about their about my experiences with mental health, and they were so glad to see me doing it and all that kind of stuff, and they were like, I got basically a long gist of it is I got like 4 of my closest friends to go get therapists themselves and all that, and we're all glowed up. We all did so well now and all that kind of stuff. So don't listen to people that say you're just trying to get attention for your mental health shit, especially for those that are like, I have mental health issues, I need you to do this, this, and this, but then won't return that to you, or that understanding or that empathy. Those are not good people. That's why they're not in my life anymore. Yes. Right. Right. Oh, awesome. The sun's coming out. That's nice. Probably going to have a nice long, or try to have a nice long walk with Bruce after this, after I finish cooking. That'll be fun. Yeah, just cooking this up. Some salt in here. Oh, no. Garlic. I mean, black pepper. Okay. Pepper. Mix that around a little bit more. This is how easy this recipe is. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, look at my Instagram below, subscribe there, because I'm going to be posting a little bit more in the next little bit, announcing what the next few streams are going to be, because the entire month of August has a theme, and I'm very, very excited for that theme. So, looking forward to launching that kind of content and giving you a whole month of August. I'll give you a little bit of preview now, because I always preview everything on stream before I make videos for it on YouTube or anything like that. But the entire month of August is going to be nutrition for students, and particularly like university students and all that kind of stuff, but we're students of all ages. So we're going to take a look at like easy, cost-effective meals, meals that you can cook in your dorm room. What's the most important kind of accessory that you can buy if you don't know how to cook, how to start learning how to cook, all that kind of stuff, all for college students, right? So really looking forward to the month of August for that. It'll be a challenge because I'm competing against viewership with the Olympics. How am I supposed to compete with that? Tell me. How? It's not going to be easy, but that's why I stream, right? We're just going to make sure people have it on. Awesome. I now I'm going to put the green beans in here too. Get those to start cooking. And now, black bean sauce. Black bean sauce. If you're new here, you need to know this, but I don't measure when I cook. I go by the feeling. It's a vibe check, basically, whenever I'm cooking. I'm like, do I want this flavor? Do I want this flavor? It's a vibe check. So if you're one of those people that needs a recipe to cook, eventually that might be what I'll do, but right now, no. No recipes. That is my preference on how to cook. So no recipes. Add some water in there. And some soy sauce. Where's my soy sauce? Give it a little bit more flavor. Plate this up. And you'll see why this is one of my favorite quick, easy meals to do. Because it's almost pretty much done already. You just need the black bean sauce to fully coat everything, emulsify. We're going to need a little bit more water in a little bit. Take the strainer that I had. So this is going to be for lunch or whatever. So I'm just going to put some of these noodles directly into here. And then put the black bean sauce on top. Meal prep or batch cooking or whatever the hell you want to call it. That's what this is. Cooking for tomorrow. Because I plan to be lazy tomorrow. Oh. Using one of my favorite plates for the official plating. It's going to be this guy. It's this blue dragon design on it. My very Chinese plate. Good. That is now spreading the flavor. It's going to, yeah, I need a little bit more water. I'm just going to pour the pasta water in here, because why not? Because otherwise I just have to throw it away. So let's get some of that pasta water in there. It has flour, excess flour just shaken off in there. And that's going to be nice because that's going to help thicken up our sauce a little bit. You've seen me do in the past where I have a cornstarch slurry. I'm not sure if I want to do that today because it already seems pretty thick and it seems pretty flavorful already. So I don't want to thicken it up too much and make it, you know, kind of too thick. But maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit I'll add. We'll see. What are you thinking, chat? Should I add the cornstarch slurry in? So that's basically done. That's, oh god, yeah, I love this recipe so much. So I'm just going to let that sit, cover the heat a little bit before I plate it up. But this is pretty much done. The rest of those noodles are going to go into a Tupperware container. And that way I will be able to use that for a different fried noodle dish. Alright, this is done cooking. I'm just going to let it... Now, that's a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables in here. Well, not a lot of vegetables. There's not as much as there should have been, I guess. But that's okay. This is what happens when you don't measure. I'm going to pre-portion a lot of this in here. Okay. So that's like 2 meals in this thing already. So that's nice. Got that taken care of. Just gonna turn off the heat now. I'm gonna find another container to put this in, because of course I'm not putting all that on my friggin' thing. Gonna put the black bean sauce away. Simmer a little bit more. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about self-care. So I'm just going to pull this over once I've cleaned over the flour and this workstation. It's a little bit messy. So I'm going to bring you back to the other side. I'm going to start plating up in a little bit, so mind the movement of the cameras. Ah! Mind the microphone too. We are going to plate this up. Just grab some of this. Again, this is a very, very rustic dish, which is why I love it so much. It uses pork, which is a very inexpensive meat right now. You know, obviously it's not good if you have like if your dietary restrictions prevent you from eating pork. You can make this recipe with chicken. You can make it with beef. I just like the pork version because I think it's a little bit more accessible to everyone. It's a little bit easier, all that kind of stuff to make. And that's why I'm using pork today. So we just plated this up. Just gonna take a little bit more of the black bean sauce. Just to make sure that's coated and goated. By the way, yesterday night, I watched, or was it yesterday? Not too sure. I watched the Simone Biles thing on Netflix. Really, really good. Really good. Especially that I'm talking about self-care and mental health and all that kind of stuff. You should all check that out because it's not fair how the media treated her after Tokyo, right? Tokyo is one of the hardest things in the world. For a lot of athletes, and expecting them to compete and be a robot and all that kind of stuff takes away the humanity out of sport, which is obviously not good. I don't like that, so highly recommend that. Highly recommend that. I would say the Simone Biles thing on Netflix is probably like 7.5 out of 10. And I think the reason why is because I'm not giving it any higher is because it's a clear setup and lead up for promotions for the Paris Olympics and all that kind of stuff, and rightfully so. I think that's kind of brilliant. I think that's kind of smart for how they did it. But I'm excited to see her compete in the gymnastics events and all that kind of stuff. She is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, as far as I'm concerned from a gymnastics standpoint, and very excited to watch her compete. But yeah, what else did I miss about self care? There's the nutrition aspect of it. There's drinking enough water, by the way, which I didn't drink enough water today, so on me. I'm gonna drink a little bit more water in a little bit. Getting some movement, getting some outdoor time, and all that kind of stuff. Breathing some fresh air, touching some grass. You know, for my Destiny players and clan mates and all that kind of stuff, touching grass is very, very important. Highly, highly, highly recommended. So, yeah, keep those things in mind. What else is important? Financial health. One of the biggest things, like I was saying before, a lot of self-care kind of guides or whatever it is seems to be very, very capitalistically driven. Like, you have to buy this in order to take care of yourself this way, this way, this way, this way. I think that a lot of that is bullshit. Some of it's good, but a lot of it's bullshit. I don't think you need to buy anything really outside of your groceries, outside of rent and all that kind of stuff. But if you're making decisions that are in service to the concept of self-care, but are leaving you financially unstable, then of course that's not good self-care, is it? Right? You can't sacrifice one thing for another. So financial literacy is a form of self-care. Having a budget, having a workout plan, all these kind of things. Adulting, basically, properly, is self-care for my fellow millennials and all that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend you take advice and look into those kind of topics from people much more smarter than I am. I'm only able to talk about the self-care in relation to how it overlaps with my work, which is, of course, nutrition and health. So getting better sleep, to reduce your stress symptoms and all that kind of stuff, reduce inflammation, all that kind of stuff. That's very, very, very important. Can't stress that enough. Making you sure you get enough sleep to recover well from your workouts and all that kind of stuff. Making sure you have good socialization, good social time and all that. Not overburdening yourself. Making sure you have time for your own hobbies. And hobbies are very, very important, right? I see a lot of people shit on me for video games all the time. And video games, as much as you want to hate them, is like one of the most accessible, most entertaining, fun things to do. That is a hobby and all that kind of stuff. Very, very social. It can be toxic. You know who I'm talking about. You're no longer part of the clan because of how toxic you are. But it is, everything that's a hobby could be a source of stress too, right? So keep that in mind, and you have to ask yourself, is this right for me anymore? But what the primary thing I wanted to come on here and talk about today is, of course, the idea of what self-care is and what it isn't. So, if self-care or the idea of self-care is attached to the idea of needing to buy something or needing to go to the spa or getting a facial or all those kind of things or buying makeup or whatever, then it's more of a capitalistic consumerism driven kind of thing. But if it is something that's legitimately taking care of yourself, your own physical needs and all that kind of stuff, that is the kind of self-care I'm talking about, which is not overly complicated and definitely can get a lot more men on board with because, like I said earlier in the stream, I see a lot of clients. A lot of those are men, and they care very, very much about their health. And the idea of self-care to them is painted in such an exclusionary way for men's health that they don't develop that concept or even think about it twice. So please, men, take care of your self-care. Take care of yourselves because nobody wants to take care of a big old baby. Just harsh reality. Nobody wants to take care of more people than they should, right? It's yeah. A lot of people are getting broken up with nowadays because of that, because they can't take care of themselves, and that's a big, big, big thing. So learn to take care of yourselves and learn to become invincible. Again, taking this for a picture of the gram. Not anything special tonight. That's okay. And we will see. We will see. So, that being said, stream is over. I'm done. I'm gonna eat this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take a few bites in front of you all to be like, hey, it's good, it's this, it's whatever. So let's just do that real quick. And then I'm gonna sign off. We're gonna see you all next week, and we are going to talk about nutrition for students, for new grads, for new students, freshmen, I should say, not new grads, for freshmen, and how to basically get a hold of your life, because a lot of freshmen struggle with a lot of different things, right? Meal cards, all that kind of stuff. They're taking care of themselves for the first time after they've been taken care of by their parents for a long, long time. You know, those are good things, but you know, I'm happy for you, but you got to learn how to take care of yourself, and that's the training wheels basically. So we'll talk more about that all throughout the month of August. Stay tuned to my Instagram. You will see what the themes are and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually going to put up a roadmap like I keep talking about. So go to the Instagram, see what I'm up to and all that kind of stuff. Working on a couple other projects now from a media standpoint that are very, very exciting. Can't wait to post those. But there's going to be some training, fitness vlogs, and all that kind of stuff coming up. Road to the Scotiabank half marathon has begun. I'm officially 3 months out as of this Sunday. So the training has begun. And of course, you know, we'll talk more about that in the video. So, obligatory bite, and you'll see if I'm acting or not. It's a bit salty today. That's okay. It's okay, not a big problem. I'll just drink an extra glass of water. It's tasty though, just a little bit saltier. Thank you all for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Look, leave a comment below. Do all that kind of stuff. I've been Ben. You've been you. You've been great. I'll see you all next week. Bye.